welcome to the local campaign, helping voters make an informed choice in the upcoming municipal election. I'm Kim Wilson and I'll be your host this evening. Tonight we have the mayoral debate for the Township of Wilmot. There are two candidates in this race and they are incumbent Les Armstrong and John Jordan. Speaking order was drawn before the debate, so with his opening remarks, here's Les Armstrong.
Good evening. My name is Les Armstrong and I've been the mayor of Wilmot for the last 8 years. I've been on Wilmot Council for a total of 24 years. We have been having a very effective time over the last 10 to 15 years to bring the township rid of debt, and we went debt-free 4 years ago. And we are building our reserves, which were almost depleted. The township is running smoothly and well with the help of staff and the members of the community, and of course, council overseeing everything going on. We have had a great time figuring everything out and getting us back on track. And we're carrying on, and we continuously have the lowest tax increase in the region every year. And we still get our things done that need to be done. We've been working hard and making Wilmot a better place, and personally, I can't find any place better to live than in Wilmot. Thank you.
Thanks, Les. John.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is John Jordan. My wife Kathy of 33 years and I and our kids have lived in Wilmot for almost 20 years. My wife Kathy operates her business in our building in downtown New Hamburg, and our kids Mackenzie and Shelby are both integral to our business. We're fully vested in Wilmot Township and are very passionate about where we live. I've got many ideas and energy to keep our township moving forward, to make this community an even more special place than it already is. The township is in an enviable and strong financial position with the means to enhance our community even more for the benefit of everyone living here, working here, and paying taxes here while remaining fiscally responsible. I'm no stranger to leadership, and I have extensive experience in leadership roles. My diverse background and work experience has provided me with the necessary skill set, along with a strong financial planning background, to launch Wilmot into the next term. For the past 26 years, I've been a self-employed entrepreneurial insurance and estate planning practitioner with a strong focus on corporate financial planning and tax reduction. Adding to this diversity, I was employed for many years as a licensed electrician. This experience has taught me the importance of communication and relationship building, skills that are foundational to asking the right questions in order to achieve the required result. Communications with the residents of Wilmot is a very important part of my platform. I want to let everybody know exactly what is happening in the township, as it may or may not affect them, regardless of the issue. Additionally, we need clear lines of communication between the residents of Wilmot and the staff of the township. This is something I've heard over and over again as I've been knocking on over 1,700 doors, and many people are frustrated. Economic development is high on my list in Wilmot Township. The employment lands between Hamilton and Nafziger roads have been touted for the past 20 plus years as being developed, yet not a shovel has hit the ground. 20 plus years. There comes a time when a new set of eyes and refocus need to occur for Wilmot to be the place to be.
Thanks, John. To begin our question and answer portion of the debate, we now go to New Hamburg Independent reporter Chris Thompson.
Thank you very much. This is for both of you. I would like to begin on the topic of communication. As a member of our local media, I value communication very high, and I believe the residents do as well. And so I was wondering what both of you would do moving forward to not only make sure residents can communicate with you, but know that they can communicate you, and what are some things that the two of you would do to make sure that would happen?
We'll start with you, John.
Communication, excuse me. We want to make sure we're open and as transparent as possible, making sure everyone knows exactly what the township is doing, and to convey that through the traditional means, through traditional channels, and through social and digital media. Always part of my platform is that communication. We can't run the township without the input from the residents, and with their input, we're going to get the best ideas from everyone and provide the best practices that we can then implement in the township.
Thanks, John. Les?
Well, as far as communication is concerned, the township currently is very open and communicative with the people. We've done several strategic plans for the different departments, and that always includes the public's input with public open houses, with surveys, and opportunity to answer surveys on our websites. We are part of social media. We're on we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and people can register to receive information from us, whether it's minutes or any other information that has to do with what's going on in the townships. So we are very concerned about that. We make sure that if there's anything outcoming that's important, that we can do press releases so that everybody knows what's going on. So personally, I think it is. Can there be some improvements? Of course, there always can be, because that's the way the system works, is that it's always improving, so we always have to improve.
Thanks, Les. For our next question, we go to Art Sinclair of the Greater KW Chamber of Commerce.
Will you support increasing property taxes to pay for service delivery? Secondly, do you support increasing business property taxes and maintaining residential at their current level?
We'll start with Les.
Well, I only support tax increases, property tax increases, only if it's an absolute necessity. And the only time it's a necessity, if something of an emergency comes up that we need to do something that is for the benefit of the entire community, and the money is needed, and that's the only time that I would support any tax increase of any kind, is to do something that's of basically an emergency type of thing. Thank you.
Thanks. John?
As a financial planner, we have to always assess the needs. It would have to be done on an annual basis, obviously. We need to assess what the revenue is and what the expenditures are. We have to make sure there's going to be a balance of all forms of taxation, through residential, through business, through agriculture, and through industrial. And without obviously seeing the books, as I've not been in the seat yet, we have to assess what that balance is going to be. But obviously we want to remain fiscally responsible and have as low of an increase, any increase, as possible for the residents of the township.
Thanks, John. For our next question, we go back to Chris.
Thank you. So earlier this year, both of you are well aware, New Hamburg and a lot of the areas around was hit with one of the worst floods we've seen in the past few decades. And from this, of course, there have been a lot of developments that we've covered, of course, in the Independent. And the formation of the NIF Flood Action Committee occurred. So I was wondering to you both, why do you think the members of the NIF Flood Action Committee felt the need to form and do the work that they've done?
The NIF Flood Action Committee formed as a coalition group and an advocacy group to see what can be done as far as any flood mitigation in New Hamburg. They got together, there was research done, and through that research they had learned that grants were available through the Ministry of Municipal Affairs for that. However, before they could apply for any grants, the ministry had to come in and make it an activation zone so that people without insurance are able to get the support and the grant money needed for the essentials for their homes. However, that didn't occur in Wilmot at this point. What had happened is that it was determined through the township staff that the flooding wasn't severe enough. However, there is no minimum to that amount, and the ministry did not come in and activate it. Therefore, no one could apply for a grant. However, the township did apply for a grant to the tune of about $250,000 because there was enough sustained damage for a similar grant to the township in that regard.
Thanks, John. Les?
Well, the application that the township did for their damage has not been completed yet, and it has not been determined that we have reached that threshold of a required amount of money in order to get the money back. We haven't achieved that yet. The township at no time told the ministry that the flood did not meet their criteria. The criteria is set by the ministry, and they're the ones that have to come and investigate to enact the program. And part of that criteria is the amount of the damage that is suffered by private property owners, homeowners, residences, and the type of disaster that it was. It has to be special, or like if it had been a tornado, apparently that would definitely be part of it. But if it's a reoccurring event like the flooding that happens in New Hamburg, regardless of the severity of it, that is quite often determined that's not part of it because it's not special mitigating circumstances. So that's what has happened so far.
Can I rebut on that?
Sure.
The definition in the grant from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs for the disaster recovery assistance for Ontarians says that it's unexpected and sudden, and there is no minimum amount of damage. Anywhere does it say in the definitions for the flood from the Municipal Affairs. We have an email was obtained from Patrick Kelly from the township that they had done an assessment by asking staff members within the township if they knew of any damage there. And Patrick Kelly told them told the ministry that there was not enough damage sustained and that they didn't have to bother, although there is no minimum amount required in the draft, or in the grant.
Thanks. Les, would you like to?
Well, what has happened is staff contacted the ministry after they trying to get an answer as to whether they were actually coming down to do this or not. And that part of his conversation was, and it still is, that the ministry has not seen any damage estimates or seen any bills that were paid out. We haven't seen any, so that is where the problem is. We're still waiting for the ministry to come down and make that determination. We didn't do that. We've told them they have to come down and make the determination themselves because we won't do that.
Thanks, Les. Do you want one more? Yep.
There has been an assessment done by the Flood Action Committee, and damages thus far are approaching $200,000 for this. They haven't sent it into the township because they haven't accumulated everything yet, but it will be I believe that it's going to be forwarded on to the ministry.
Well,
Would you like another comment?
If they've made an assessment and they're holding on to the paperwork, then neither the ministry or the township can answer the question as to what damage there is.
Great. Thanks, gentlemen. We'll move on. Back to you, Chris.
All right. The New Hamburg Board of Trade is currently moving forward or taking the next steps towards beautification in downtown New Hamburg, and recently there was a donation of $1 million to the township for the purpose of constructing trails. So I was wondering, where do both of you value the beautification or the addition of these facilities in Wilmot Township, and how would you go about implementing them?
And we'll start with you, Les.
Yeah. Well, the beautification of the downtown is something that, I mean, we've already designated money towards the beautification downtown. We're just waiting for a plan to be centered to us, presented by the Board of Trade. It's their initiative, but we have set money aside from grant money that we receive for other work in the downtown. As far as the trails are concerned, we certainly do appreciate the $1 million donation from the Scout family, Scout family. And it was designated straight for creation of new trails within the township. And the township's trails master plan is what it will be used for, to enhance the lives of the people of the township. So that's where it's going to be going. It's an extensive program, and the money was designated to build new trails and to acquire land if necessary.
Thanks.
With the trails, again, there is the master plan, and it's very appreciative of the Scout family to donate the $1 million for this. It's certainly going to be well used to put that in. And there's a much call for in the township, people wanting trails to connect all the major points, such as out to the rec center and into town and so forth. My wife is part of the Board of Trade, and there was a grant given, I believe it was administered through OMAFRA, to the tune of about $55,000. Which this is not just a New Hamburg grant, though, which I've heard that's the only place where monies have been allocated thus far. We have to make sure that the other burgs and settlements in our township, such as New Dundee and Baden and so forth, they should be getting a portion of this grant money as well that has been given for the beautification of those downtowns.
Thanks, John. Back to you, Chris, for another question.
All right. Recently, or within the past year, there have been some initiatives towards the installations of stop signs at intersections. And the one I'm particularly referring to near Baden Public School, this process took a little while, but eventually there was the installation of the all-way stop there. So I would like to ask, where do both of you value residential or initiative from residents towards projects such as these, and how would you make sure that residents know that they can take those steps to make these initiatives happen?
Community safety is paramount in any situation. There's no one better to see what is happening around the schools and around in our communities than the residents that are living there. And by them coming to council and addressing council, whether it be through petition or whatever form that they're doing, we need to act on these types of things right away so that, you know, safety of our kids in the school zones is looked after. There should be no issue at all if it's with the township. When it's on a regional road, it can be a little bit different story because you have another level of government we've got to go through. But as your mayor, I would be that voice on region and be a strong voice, especially when it comes to community safety.
Thanks, John. Les?
Yes, the process that happened in Baden worked well. The community came to the township. We had staff look at it. Initially, the process showed that it wasn't warranted, so what we did was we got an outside study done, and because of the prospect of further development behind where the school is and in the area where these stop signs were meant for, it showed that probably in the not too distant future it would warrant it. So we went ahead and said, okay, it's probably a good idea to do it now and get people used to it.
Thanks, Les. For our next question, we're going to go back to Art Sinclair of the KW Chamber of Commerce.
All municipalities across Canada have been facing infrastructure challenges in the last number of years. That is, building roads, water mains, sewers, and other necessary structures that businesses and residents require on a daily basis. Do you support using property tax increases to finance current and future infrastructure requirements? And if not, what would you propose as an alternative revenue source?
We'll start with you, Les.
I think that increasing property taxes for those items is an extremely last resort. I believe that some of the infrastructure that we have to take care of and repair and upgrade, some of that funding, especially replacing bridges, that is something that should come from the province. The province built all our bridges and then gave them to us, so I think maybe to saddle us with the expense of $1 or $2 or $3 million to replace an aging bridge is not right. I think what we have is a 10-year capital plan for maintaining, upgrading, and improving our infrastructure. And because we have that plan in place, because we're working on our reserves, we are able to have a regular program to keep this going, and we're doing all the road repairs and infrastructure upkeep that needs to be done, and it's working well. It has been for 10 to 20 years.
Thanks, Les. John?
Infrastructure obviously is the backbone of what we do, and we have to look at that as each item comes through. We are obviously responsible for all of the bridges on the municipal or township roads, but we can work collaboratively with the provincial and federal governments, and there's typically grants available with that. So we look at working with them where we can. Again, a last resort as far as increases, we have to assess that each year as far as what is the needs of the community, what are the infrastructure needs, what services are required, and look at that each year to see if it is warranted.
Thanks, John. Another question, Chris?
Thank you. New Hamburg, New Dundee, Baden, the Township of Wilmot often have events going on. It seems like every weekend. We just had the addition of the William Scott Festival, of course, this year. So I was wondering, how does the township take steps to continue to encourage residents to organize these events, and how can the township get involved and make them bigger and better?
John.
This is part of my platform, is certainly supporting the arts and culture. We are rich with talent in Wilmot Township, whether it be through the TCP and the productions that they put on. We've got a wealth of musical talent. One of our local gals is up for a Canadian Country Music Award right now. And we have many, many contacts that we can start putting some pretty significant and successful festivals together, and certainly something I'll be working with those people through those programs to make sure that we can keep going and building on these festivals and drawing people to Wilmot, because it's the place to be.
In about, well, hopefully over the next few weeks, the completion of the arts and culture master plan will be completed, and which has come with a lot of input from the public, and they've had a lot. We've had so much input that we've had to delay the passing of it, because it had to be gone over and redone on a couple of occasions because of that. Yes, there are a lot of festivals going on, and John is right. We're rich with talent. We're rich with people that want to be involved in the community and make it a great place to play, and great place for people to visit. I mean, one of the things we have going now is the Prime Minister's Path, which is completely funded by the private sector, and it's something that's growing, and it's sitting on a national historic site, and will help to draw people to our community. As much as we maybe don't want to let them know what a great place we have, but we're going to encourage them to come out and find out what a wonderful place Wilmot is.
Thanks, Les. I think we have time for one more.
All right. So Wilmot Township is very diverse in the sense of we have a lot of small towns, but we also have a lot of rural areas. So during your canvassing, or during your time simply asking and talking to rural residents specifically, I was wondering, what are some concerns they've voiced to you? What are some concerns that they've voiced that have surprised you? And what would you do to address some of these concerns that rural residents have?
Well, I think for the most part, the rural residents are relatively happy. They're very concerned that with some of the regulations that have come down the pipe from the province, that there are concerns that it could affect them. But with the strength of the countryside line that we have, the rural areas, the farmlands are well protected at this point in time, and I think that is what their concerns are mainly, and hopefully they can continue to produce the food that we eat, and provide us with all the comforts of home by providing all the other stuff that goes with that.
Thanks, Les. John?
Agriculture is probably the biggest industry we have in our township, and we have to make sure that we're embracing that and celebrating it and working with the agricultural community with that. Probably one of their concerns in the last few years is that their property taxes have increased quite substantially. And in fact, there's some double-digit increases in there as well. We're always talking about tax increases, keeping them low. That's to the residential portion, but the farmers are seeing something a little bit completely different. But we do want to celebrate what we've got. We've got some great farmers and everything around that are growing garlic. We have a new honey festival this year. We have Fennings Organic. We have one of the world's top cheesemakers within our township. There's a lot there. We have to promote that agriculture and the agritourism, along with, as Les had mentioned, holding the line. That is a very significant portion of our township with the environmentally sensitive lands, and we have to protect that all the way we can, because that's our water coming in there. And the people living there, I just met with Jane Snyder the other day. They are very passionate about the Wilmot line and making sure it's held, that no development comes into Wilmot past the line.
Thanks, John. And thanks, Chris, for the questions, and thanks to Art Sinclair. We're going to move to the closing remarks portion of our debate, and we'll start with you, John.
Thank you. Municipal politics affects people the most of any level of government, but it's the one that gets the least attention from the public, especially at election time. A municipal election is your opportunity to let your voice be heard, you the residents of Wilmot, if you're not satisfied with your current municipal government. There's a very strong slate of candidates running in this election that prioritize listening to the residents and providing positive results. Wilmot Township is rich with culture and talent and the uniqueness to every burg and settlement in the township. We need to embrace and celebrate the people, the arts and culture, sports and recreation, special events, agriculture and agritourism, local businesses and restaurants, and the talent that this township has to offer. We want to let everyone know that Wilmot is the place to be. I've lived in this area of southwestern Ontario my entire life, and I've had the good fortune of both living in town and for the past 13 years living in our farm in Wilmot Centre. This has provided me with a well-rounded view of both urban and rural lifestyles, as well as understanding both rural and urban residents and the issues that they need. I know that my vision will continue to support all local people, businesses, and community groups, albeit this time from the head of council. For the past number of weeks, I've been getting out and into all corners of the township, and I thus have rung on more than 1,700 doors and counting. My grassroots way of meeting people I'm representing will continue up until the election. In closing, I've listened to what Wilmot residents have had to say. Now is the time to take this input and make our community stronger, better, and make Wilmot the place to be. Together, we will do this with my leadership, my progress, and my passion. On October 22nd, I look forward to your support for your vote for mayor.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
And Les.
So first of all, I want to thank Rogers for providing us with these debates. I also want to say that I've enjoyed extremely the time I've had being the mayor of Wilmot. And during that 8 years, especially the 8 years of being mayor, I'm always out in the community talking to the people. My office door is always open. I've had numerous people come in. They come in to pay their taxes, and the next thing they do is they're at my door wanting to chat about what's going on and any concerns that they have. And I've always listened. I've never turned anybody away from the door. And when I've been sitting having a coffee with somebody and somebody's come up to talk to me, I've never turned them away from the table. I've always been open to the people and will continue to do so, because part of my passion is being with the people. And because Wilmot's such a great place, it makes it even more enjoyable. So I wish to continue to do that and hope for your support on the 22nd. And the important thing to say is, please, everybody, get out and vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Les. And I'd like to thank the Wilmot mayoral candidates for participating in tonight's debate. And make sure to tune in to Rogers TV on October 22nd for your up-to-the-minute results. Thanks for watching and have a good night.